Don't buy a smart ring, at least till you hear what I have to say. I want to tell you my experience with this one and also tell you a little bit more what smart rings actually are. So this one right here is actually by a brand called Ultrahuman, and it's the model Ring Air. I've been using it for about a month and a half, and I have quite a few insights about it. I do like a couple of things, but not everything. First, I want to talk about what the experience of buying a smart ring is all about. First of all, you have two options in most parts of the world. If you want to buy it on Amazon, you can buy it, but you do need to know your ring size because yes, we have ring sizes and you will be using it mostly on your index finger. So whatever ring fits on your index finger, well, that's the measurement you should get. Also make sure you can sleep with that measurement and it's not uncomfortable, and especially it doesn't make pressure over your fingers or else you can have a couple of complications, but just make sure it doesn't make you uncomfortable. The second option is actually buying it from the Ultrahuman website, and they will send you a sizing kit. They give you different measurements. You can wear them overnight for a couple of days, a couple of weeks, whatever you want, and then you can contact them and tell them exactly what size of a ring you are, and that way you can have it tailor-made, and you can make sure it fits you a lot better. That's the option I would go with, but if you know your ring size, well, maybe you can save a couple of bucks or especially time if you buy it straight from Amazon. Now, what do you get straight out of the box? Well, you get the ring itself in a very nice package. It's actually pretty Apple-like, which is not a bad thing. Elegant, simple, and straight to the point. You also get a charger, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, because there's something I don't like about this ring charger. And you also get a braided cable, which is pretty nice quality, USB to Type-C. Now, how much time does it take to charge a ring? Well, it takes about 2 hours. How much does the battery last? Well, it depends on your usage. Mileage may vary, but I got between 4 and 4.5 days. I couldn't get to the mark, which Ultrahuman says is mostly 6 days. I can't reach that mark because I use it all the time. I use it to sleep and I use it during the day. So if you're going to use it for a lot of hours or most of the day, it's most likely you won't reach 6 days total. But still, 4 days might be reasonable for a lot of people. Probably means a short trip without you having to charge your ring or having to travel with that charger. Now, speaking about the charger, I really don't like that it stays on all the time. If you have it connected to an outlet, well, it has this little light that can be pretty annoying if you're trying to sleep at night, or if you're too sensitive to any type of brightness and you're used to sleeping in complete darkness, well, it's pretty annoying. And for something that's actually meant to make you get better sleep, it gives you better tips, it gives you different measurements that would actually help you improve all your sleep habits, well, having a bright light next to your counter is not ideal. I don't know why they did that. It would be ideal if it only turned on when you're charging it. I could understand that. But why the hell is it on when you're not charging it? But it's the only detail I don't like. It's snug, it fits perfectly, and it's not a big deal for a lot of people. Maybe just don't have it next to your counter and you charge it maybe in the bathroom. Now, what happens when you have your ring, when you have everything set up? How does it work? What do you need to do? Well, the first thing you need to do is download the application from Ultrahuman in this case, but the same deal is for Oura Ring, and probably for the Samsung Ring, everything will be practically the same. You go inside, make your account, put all your personal information like your weight, altitude, age, and some details they ask you for. That way, it will know exactly what to measure and to get a little bit of a notion how your health is doing according to certain parameters. Now, how does it work and what do you have access to? Well, inside the application, there are quite a few things that I think are pretty cool. For example, it does have a heart rate meter, it does have an oxygen sensor, and it also has a temperature sensor, which can come pretty handy. What do you get out of all this? Well, an application which actually gives you a lot of information from different aspects. It can tell you how well you're sleeping, how often you're sleeping, how many hours you're sleeping, and to this, you can actually add different parameters. You have to download inside the app something called Power Plugs. Most of these Power Plugs are actually free and are in beta mode still. But they can tell you, for example, things if you're a pregnant woman, how your pregnancy is going along, if there've been any fluctuations, if there've been any slight temperature changes or anything like that. Well, maybe you want to predict your cycle. Well, you can also do it with the temperature. It can tell you more or less when you're going to have your menstrual cycle. So it can be pretty useful for a lot of people. It also has exercise modes, but they're not exactly for what you get in a smartwatch. They're a little bit different. You do get some that I think are pretty cool because you couldn't get them if you were using a smartwatch. For example, you get soccer. You can't play soccer with a smartwatch, but with a smart ring, you might be able to. Just put a little tape around it, and it's probably not a big deal. And it's quite cool to actually take a measurement of how much you're running when you're playing soccer. it's not that easy to do. Now, that doesn't mean every exercise you do with the ring is actually good or is ideal for this thing. You can actually have quite an issue if you like lifting weights, for example. If you're running, if you're swimming, or if you're playing soccer, no issues. I think you can actually use it for that. But if you want to lift weights, it's very uncomfortable. I always end up taking it off because exactly where the ring goes, that's where weights are going to lean on your hand. So it can break, it can scratch, and definitely is not ideal. Then you're going to say, well, maybe a smart ring is not ideal for me because I do a lot of weights and I don't want to risk not being able to monitor my health because the ring is uncomfortable. Well, I thought the same thing. But turns out that this ring, specifically this brand, can actually link to an application called Apple Health. And in Apple Health, you can also use everything your Apple Watch records. So you just put any exercise mode you want for weightlifting, slip it, and once it syncs with the health application from Apple, well, the ring will take that information and add it to all the other information it has in the Ultrahuman application, which is pretty cool because it does do some things that the watch doesn't do so precise. For example, taking measurements in your index finger is way more effective than actually doing it in your wrist. I'm not saying it, a lot of experts have said this, and it's also a little bit of common sense. When you go to the doctor and you put an oxygen sensor on, they actually always put it on your index finger. That's because measurements are a lot more precise when you do it there. And according to my experience, that's true. The heart rate sensor has been a lot more precise and is a lot more continuous. It doesn't take that small pause that a lot of smartwatches take, including premium ones. It does it right away, and apparently it's a lot more easy to do it with the sensors pointing below your index finger. So there's that. Which actually takes us to the next point, which is my favorite about these rings. I do think that where they shine and what a lot of people should use them for is actually measuring everything you do when you're sleeping. Because when you're sleeping, you can get your variable heart rate, you can get how much you're recovering, how many hours you're doing, how many full cycles, how much REM sleep, and it's a lot less invasive to actually sleep with this than sleep with something like this. A lot of people don't like sleeping with their smartwatches, so if you want to monitor what you're doing right in your life, if you're sleeping on time, if you're resting, if you're taking maybe too much alcohol before bedtime, or if you're maybe shining too much blue light before you go to sleep, this does an excellent job and is what I've liked the most about a smart ring. So that takes us to the next question. What are smart rings? Well, I think they're the perfect complement for a lot of smartwatches and a lot of smart tracking applications. Do take into account not all smart rings do what this Ultrahuman ring does that links straightly to the health application in iOS. It doesn't do it with Android until now, and as far as I know. There might be an update further along because I can tell you Ultrahuman is pretty focused on this product and they update it all the time. You have to update the firmware consistently inside the application. And it makes sense because it's one of their few products. They're not focused on doing monitors like Samsung, doing phones like Samsung, making smartwatches like Samsung, and developing and updating all those gadgets. They only have to focus on the ring, so they do pretty much a good job. Also, Oura does a great job, but the issue with the Oura ring, and something I definitely don't like, is that they charge you for a subscription. Everything you get for free with the Ultrahuman ring is completely behind a paywall with the Oura ring, which seems absurd. We're going to have to see what Samsung's approach is once they launch their own Galaxy ring. But I have a theory that it's, first of all, not going to work properly with all the other devices that are not Samsung, because that's what they're pointing towards. They're trying to make their own ecosystem similar to what Apple does, but the price range is also an issue. And that takes me to the thing that I like the least about smart rings. Great to have a complement for your smartwatch, but how much do you have to pay for that complement? Well, you do have to pay $350. That makes it very hard to recommend one of these, and it's definitely not for everybody. Maybe for somebody that's pretty focused or very health aware, or if you're a gym nut, or I have no idea, but if you're very focused on your health and you want to track every single detail, well, yeah, maybe a smart ring. But if you're not, probably a smartwatch is enough for most people. Drop a comment below. Would you buy a smart ring? After everything I've told you, $350 is quite a package change, and the Oura ring is not too far behind, as well as the Samsung ring. Well, it won't be cheap. And you know what else is not cheap? Well, our video production quality. If you don't believe me, well, check this video over here, which I think you might like, and don't forget to subscribe and drop a thumbs up. It helps us quite a bit.